This is a mock interview conducted by ForumIAS Academy. ForumIAS is India's leading academy for civil services preparation. ForumIAS now provides interview guidance support for CAPF, Indian Forest Service, apart from civil services personality tests for its students.
So Abhishek,
Yes.
you're from Ghaziabad?
Yes.
Why is the law and order situation so bad in Ghaziabad? Or at least that is the perception.
So it's not only a perception, but we can see some law and order situations, and it's not a new situation, but from a long time, and it's just because of its background, since there has been a lot of gangsters and criminals that have been originated from here, and they have their essence still now going on there, and also the recent cases we can see. I recall DP Singh, I'm not remembering the name, the DP Yadav, that kind of culture is there, which is creating some law and order situations.
Okay. Other parts of UP also nearby?
So,
Other parts of UP is also disturbed?
yes, sir, we can see certain cases in Faridabad, Gurgaon, NCR, the whole NCR region. We can say that it's having law and order situation problems, criminal chain snatching and all this. And the major reason, maybe you can say the unemployment or the ideologies that the people have. That may be the case.
So you have studied from NIT Jalandhar,
Yes, sir.
right? What cultural differences did you see over there as compared to Ghaziabad?
Culture difference, mainly people there are more into the village life, as my college was in the village side, on the countryside. The people there are more on the rural areas and living a very decent and non-sedentary lifestyle, more into the physical activities, and also the area there is more open compared to the Ghaziabad. As I see that the buildings or the high-rise buildings we see in the Ghaziabad, they are not as such there in Jalandhar, but a very open area which is not as polluted as in the Ghaziabad and UP.
Consumerism?
Consumerism,
Generally it is said that people of Punjab consume more.
more of drugs.
Not of drugs, but of general consumerism, luxury items and all this.
Luxury items, sir, this is one of the perception, and also I've seen that the peoples are more affected or influenced towards luxury items irrespective of their incomes and lifestyle. They have more, let me say, trend towards purchasing more costly items, and not just as a symbol of lifestyle. I have seen more of my friends who are of my relative Punjabis having iPhones, and their family background is not as such good, but they are more opting for they are having BMWs and Audis and all those things.
So you are also a part of hospitality team in your college.
Yes.
What was the role as a team member in the hospitality team?
So the hospitality team is we have two fests in our colleges. That is one a tech fest and a culture fest. So members from the other colleges used to participate in it, and the hospitality teams used to provide the accommodation for all those members so that they can have a pre-decided accommodation in the college itself and can easily participate in the event.
So where did you arrange the accommodation in the college?
So we had a big hall and the separate rooms for the faculties that we used to come from the other colleges, and also the students, and we used to provide it in our hostel itself with the mess facilities.
So you have also worked quite some time in private sector, right?
Yes, sir.
So why you want to make this switch? I think you were working in a very good company, Oracle.
Yes, sir.
You left the job.
Yes, I have left.
So why CAPF or why civil services? You're also giving the civil services exam.
Yes, I have civil services.
Why CAPF in particular?
So there are several reasons I would like to count. I've always wanted to become an officer and join the police services. The first reason I would say that I have been a physically active person, and I always wanted to a job that is more physically active, and CAPF provides us that with sports and games a part and parcel of this. Secondly, sir, if you see the Western UP area, it has a regional perception that people are going more toward in the force. So I have always seen my cousins and my brothers, they're all giving the force exams, and that has influenced me. And thirdly, the reason is that my Mamaji has served in CRPF and he has influenced me a lot. So I decided to take CAPF in particular.
Okay. So what's your optional like preferences for the forces?
So it's CISF at the first, CRPF at the second, and BSF at the third, SSB at the fourth, and ITBP at the last.
Why CISF first over CRPF?
So there's a reason, and I want an all-India service, a pan-India service. If you see CISF and CRPF, they both are pan-India in their field works compared to the other three forces. So I put CISF and CRPF at the top. And CISF at the top, the reasons are that I have been living in the metropolitan city and I have always seen CISF at the metros, airports, which has kind of attracted me. And also the reason that CISF, if you see, is a force of the future. Being a relatively new force, it has a bright future as we are moving towards a non-conventional war, which is more towards cyber warfare and protecting our economic security. As India aspires to become an economic superpower, so it needs to preserve its economic infrastructure, the PSUs and all its airports and other assets. And so we can say that the CISF would be the force of the future. And it's no time that we see a separate air wing of CISF or a cyber unit of a CISF. So it has a bright future, I think.
What's the difference between 5G and a 4G?
Sir, it is a generational difference. As we see, the communication has evolved over the period from 1G, 2G, 4G and 5G. So the difference is in the form of the bandwidth. As we see, the 5G is working on a higher bandwidth. Higher bandwidth means a higher frequency rates, which means a higher data transfer rate. And because of that, we see a higher speed. That is nearly about 20 Gbps we can have in 5G compared to 4G, which at max gives you a 10 Mbps on a data network or 100 Mbps at a LAN network. So the data difference. The other is the latency, which is nearly 10 milliseconds for the 4G and which would be much lesser for the 5G network. And the other difference is the connectivity which would be provided by the 5G would be more over 100 kilometers square.
Okay, and how is India prepared for 5G? So,
seeing the problem of telecommunication, we have always been late on our communications. The 1G, 2G, and 3G, 4G, they all have been after they have been deployed in other countries. But in terms of 5G, I can say that India is pretty prepared for deploying it at the right time and being at the par with all the countries in the terms of the technology. And we are doing 5G testing. Recently, Reliance has taken over the testing. Airtel is doing the testings. But there are several challenges in terms of infrastructure, the status of the telecom industry, its financial status, and also the digital literacy that people have about the 5G.
Okay. You also have a hobby of DJing. What is DJing?
Sir, I used to play DJ in the colleges in the events. It means that playing the songs for the people, to the audience in the fest and functions.
Okay. What makes DJing different from playing the songs? Like some technical differences?
Yes, sir, I'll say. It is mostly like playing songs is just playing songs in a queue one after the another. But in a DJing, you can mix songs. The basic purpose is that we play a number of songs and we switch them in such a way that the tempo of a song doesn't feel like it's an abrupt and the audience can enjoy as such. Like there should be a sense of the song which should be played at a certain time, and also the tempo or the beats that the other song has, it should match with the previous ones.
So it is pre-decided, or like what happens if someone requests a song?
So there is a way to match the tempo of a song. We have certain controls on the DJ that we can do lower the tempo of one song and make the tempo of the one song, the other which is in the queue, to be the higher, so that they matches at a particular time, and later on we can play the original part. So it doesn't seem an abrupt shift.
Don't you think there has been a fall in the quality of lyrics over the last few years in the popular Bollywood songs?
Yes, sir, I think so. The quality and also the music quality has gone down compared to the earlier ways in the last decade.
Why is it so? Any particular reasons?
Sir, it is, I think, because of less creativity people are showing. There are more of remakes nowadays and not the new original songs. They are using auto-tuners And earlier the singers used to practice a lot and try to improve their quality of the songs and also of their voice. But nowadays the auto-tuner, the computer system has made it easier for them to just release their song and just auto-tune them to the perception of or the taste of the audience. And that's why I think most of the songs are auto-tuned and they are not as such quality.
Recently, commissionerate system was introduced in Noida and Greater Noida. So, what is a commissionerate system?
Sir, there are two type of systems. Like one is commissionerate system and what is the normal way I use. In commissionerate system, there is only one person in authority who is at least of a DIG rank, and he has the responsibility of the police system as an SP and also of the magisterial as a DM. Whereas in the other cities, we have the other system where there is a separate SP and a separate DM, which work separately for the administration and also for the police systems. They work separately.
Okay. Why is it that some areas in Uttar Pradesh are communally sensitive?
So certain reasons, historic reasons, there has been historical violence there, and the people there are more communally sensitive because of the population they have. So there comes a concept of majoritarianism. If you have a certain population in majority, and they will always try to suppress the people in the minority, which depress them and create radical behavior of the other part. That is why there is a communalism in certain areas, and UP being on comparatively having a significant population of different religions, there are certain areas which creates you can say a blocks where a certain population is in majority, and they try to be radical for their aims or ideological behaviors.
Administration in UP was very stiff or rigid regarding the farmers' protest and ensuring or in some way keeping the borders of Uttar Pradesh safe compared to other states which gave, let's say, were more liberal in accommodating them. So what is your stand on this? We were able to avert any kind of untoward security incident, which is also positive.
Sir, let's say the protests were mostly on the Delhi borders, and a lot of population of the farmers that has came from the western UP and from the Haryana and Punjab itself. So just to prevent the backfall of the protest on the UP and the movement of the protest within the UP itself, the protection was provided, and so that the farmers doesn't go back. That we saw violence on the Red Fort. That was a security failure, we can say, to prevent such situations that conditions were put on, and I think
so.
It was right.
By not, let's say, allowing protest, you think the state did a good thing, right?
So not allowing the protest, it was not such that. It is not allowing a violent protest. You can protest in your area, but not allowing the violent protest, that's a right thing, I think.
So were the Noida-Ghaziabad borders sealed like other borders?
Not sealed, I would say. In Noida, there are certain areas which were blocked by the farmers, and the government tried to put a way for the normal people, as there is a lot of traffic that flows from Noida and Ghaziabad to the UP. So the protest is not supposed to block the routes.
Okay.
So that's why they block certain routes for protest, that you can't protest here because that's a main route and you can protest on your sites and you're
fine. Why the problem of drugs is prominent in Punjab compared to other states? Because even Rajasthan and Gujarat do share border with Pakistan.
So the culture compatibility or the similarity between the Punjab and the Pakistan, and also the nearby presence of the Golden Crescent, that is Iran, Afghanistan and Pakistan, from where the drug trafficking originates in the western part of the India. That is one of the main reasons that Punjab is mostly affected with the drug trafficking. And what I say about the cultural similarities is because the half of the Punjab region is in the Pakistan and half of the Punjab
border
region
is sealed effectively, right? So I mean, cultural similarity, people don't mingle openly. So do you think that is the main point?
So it may not be a main point, but it can be an influence on the people's culturally. Like the people on the one side of the border and the other side of the border, they have a similar kind of tendencies.
How does that impact the drug culture? That's okay, fine. In terms of Nepal border, we do have, in terms of UP and Nepal border is open, which creates many problems. So, do you think just like we have arrangements with Pakistan and Bangladesh border, where the borders are effectively sealed, or let's say we have closed border system, a similar thing should be put in with the Nepal border to ensure border is not misused?
So we have a friendship treaty with Nepal, and because of that, we have an open border with the Nepal, and we allow the population of Nepal to come and mingle with the peoples and also take the government jobs even. So
Treaty can be amended.
So we have very less friends in our neighborhood, and we won't like to break that friendship. And I won't see that there would be a point in sealing the border. I would say that we can secure the border by different ways, putting the smart walls or putting a high security and controlling the trafficking of the drugs and the human trafficking or the other crimes we are seeing. But sealing a border completely, I don't think that would be a good idea for them.
But do you think Khalistani movement is on the rise in Punjab and other parts of the world?
So it hasn't been on the rise on the last 2 or 3 decades, but recently it has taken the name during the Republic Day protest, and I don't think that is on the rise as such, but it was just a buzz that we saw on that day.
You have done electronics and communication engineering, right?
Yes.
How does a jammer work? Frequency jammer or radio jammer?
Sir, it works on the principle of filters. Like we have an stop filter and pass filters. So if we use a stop filter, it can allow or disallow any kind of frequencies to pass that we want. So using a full stop filter, we can stop any kind of the frequency that we want.
A stop filter is more like for the reception. I'm talking of jamming. How do we jam the, let's say, our opponent's signals?
So the transmission of the signal.
Yes. Radar jammers or signal jammers, or let's say we have to jam terrestrial signals. How do we do that?
Sir, I'm not.
You have studied from Dr. Ambedkar National Institute of Technology, right?
Yes.
Can you name the party from which Dr. Ambedkar contested election?
So it was Indian Labour Party that he formed in 1935, I guess.
So you have a quite keen interest in watching cricket.
Yes.
Can you tell me which cricketer scored the first double century in one-day cricket?
So Sachin Tendulkar.
Okay, and why not women cricketer? Do you know which women cricketer scored the first double century?
So I don't follow that much.
What do you think there is the women cricket is not so popular in India, or maybe even the women any sports related to women? Why do you think that the viewership is so low?
Sir, it may be mainly because the participation from the women itself is very low in terms of the participation in the sports, and there is very less attraction towards sports in women's. And we can see on cricketers, there are only hardly few cricketers that we see, and it's a kind of a chain reaction, we can say. The women's participate less, the viewership is less, the revenue is less.
It's a vicious circle. That's exactly what I was also looking for. Because the viewership is low, the interest is low. The interest is low because the viewership, because broadcasters do not broadcast enough matches or, to raise the interest level. But women certainly are doing well in other sports. Say, for example, badminton we see. In wrestling, we see a lot of women names are there. What do you think that the participation of women can be increased in other sports as well? What steps do you think that need to be taken?
So first of all, we need to increase the viewership, and the government may provide the support to the broadcaster in that way. That if the
but government is broadcast is a private, it goes in the private.
I'm talking about subsidizing the women's sports, and also making some women-specific academies for the training of the women sports person, which can improve the results of the women's. And if the results can improve, and so that it's always a tendency in a sports that if you have greater achievements, the people are attracted more towards that. So if we have more.
Talking specifically about cricket, say for example, do you think BCCI also need to do more? For example, in Australia, Women Big Bash League is already there and it's quite popular from what I understand. Do you think that similar steps should be taken by BCCI as well? IPL, a women version can also be launched?
So it was launched, but it was just a 3-team match, and I think BCCI can do a lot more in that sense, that they can increase the number of teams and also call the foreign players as they call in the IPL to increase the interest of the women's in the IPL or cricket, IPL type of tournament for the women's.
Can you name a few women cricketers of India who are participating in Big Bash League in Australia? Do you know any cricketer?
Smriti Mandhana,
Okay.
Shefali Verma,
Okay.
and
Harmanpreet Kaur?
Harmanpreet Kaur, yes, Harmanpreet Kaur, and I was remembering for a name of bowler, I remember that is.
It's all right. It's all right. Okay, so you have worked in telecom, you have graduated in electronics engineering. Can you tell me what is the current tele density of India?
Sir, tele density is nearly about 150%, but in rural areas it is 86 or in the line of 80s, and in the urban areas it is past 150. It means that there is a severe disparity between the urban and the rural areas.
So what steps can be taken to improve the tele density in rural areas?
Sir, we need to increase the penetration of the Wi-Fi and the internet services, and also making available the telecom operators and the great that increasing the tower density, and that was I was looking for the term, the tower density, which means that it is more in the urban areas, giving a great network for the telecom operators in the urban areas, but it is not as such in the rural areas.
Why do you think the tower density is lower in rural areas?
So the demand from the rural areas is not as high as in the urban areas. That's why the broadcasters or the telecom companies have placed in place.
Do the tower companies, those who install, do they earn revenue from installation?
Yes, they have a revenue from installations from the towers also, and from the telecom services they provide also.
So do you think that there is any way to incentivize they can earn a revenue in rural areas? They'll have an incentive to install more towers? Or is the revenue opportunity is missing in rural areas? That's why they are not installing there.
So like we see in the urban areas, they are using the vacant land for installing the towers, and also on the terraces of the people. And I've seen in just my neighborhood that people are looking for the tower to be installed, and it is helpful for both the resident person and also for the telecom companies. In such a way, we can incentivize it in the rural areas by providing the vacant lands.
And do these towers have a negative impact on environment and on human health?
Yes, sir, it does, because they are more on the radio waves, and as we are moving towards 5G, they would be working on the 5G waves, which are mostly a microwave, that is more towards a higher frequency of 300 gigahertz nearly, and which would be pretty harmful for the human bodies.
Is there any scientific work validating this perception that it does impact the human health?
So I'm not recalling any scientific report or work that has been done, but there were certain cases that were quoted in USA that a fleet of birds which was traveling or migrating from one area to another was found killed on a way where 5G testings are done.
Okay, so it's more of an anecdotal evidence. There is no conclusive study as such. Okay. Earlier you mentioned like Punjabi culture, they tend to show off a bit, and also I think another trend that is very popular is migrating out of India.
Yes.
Why do you think that trend exists specifically in Punjab, and mostly they prefer to go to Canada? What could be the reasons of this?
Sir, as I said, that it's more because of the lifestyle they want to live, and as a lot of people have already migrated to the Canada, there is a tendency that, or we can say a perception that the NRI life is more better than they have in India, and it is a more luxurious life. And it's just a chain reaction that one after another people are going towards Canada and to be renowned as an NRI.
And like you mentioned about the Khalistani problem, do you think that Canada has a support for this movement?
Sir, you mean the state government of Canada?
not particularly state, but what kind of environment exists in Canada that does support? Because the security agencies have also pointed out that a lot of funding that comes, it's coming from abroad, primarily Canada, and there are some other states as well in United Kingdom, perhaps parts of England and London. Why do you think the support exists there?
So during the 1980s, when the Khalistani movement was prominent in India and it was suppressed, a lot of rebels or the protesters, they moved or relocated themselves in Canada. And so there are certain groups, Khalistani groups, that are operating from Canada independently, and they are not related with the Canadian government, and they are providing the support and funding.
And do you think the Canadian government is doing enough in this regard? Or is the Indian government putting enough pressure on the Canadian government to take action?
Sir, I don't recall such an initiative or such an action, but if India needs to put some diplomatic actions on this and talk with the Canadian government about such Khalistani group. And yes, recently I recall that a list was generated for all the Canadian Punjabi peoples who were detained from India and who were translocated to Canada, and they were blacklisted from moving back to India. That I remember. It was done last year by the Canadian government.
All right.